Do you think people are like predisposed to be addicted to certain things, or do you think just like through their life arcs they've like had like certain things happen to them that make them be more likely to be addicted to like nicotine or sex or gambling?
Or because again, I think sex is intimate and meaningful, and it's kind of degrading to sex if the reason you do it is to like show, because ultimately like you're either showing to others or you're showing yourself that you've accomplished something. I think that you should seek validation based on your accomplishments and your character and try to build yourself up, and it shouldn't be done through more just like trivial like pissing contest ways of validation, like having a lot of money or having a lot of sexual partners. This is the Void Podcast with Miles Anton. I've got 3 awesome guests on today. We got Ethan Ross, the man of Andrew Tate progeny.
Yo, don't introduce me as that. Come on, man.
We've got Maya, who is ready to share some very intelligent takes on this issue.
I will try.
And as usual, we have my beautiful girlfriend Hannah here to participate, take some shots at Ethan. I'm excited for that dynamic. So basically,
I'm gonna try and contain myself.
The origin of this podcast is basically we did a podcast, me, Ethan, and Zurich, a couple weeks ago about body counts, and a criticism to that podcast is that we did not have enough representation of women, and so I wanted to bring on some intelligent women and talk about this topic, and I'm mostly going to be facilitating, see what happens, might guide the conversation a bit, but maybe a good place to start is what does everybody think about body counts?
I don't really think it matters that much. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think if you have a high or low body count that shows who you truly are as a person. Maybe that means, like, something you went through or, like, something you care about. I don't know. It means something different for everyone, but I don't think that you can evaluate someone just on their body count.
Yeah, no, that's my opinion, too. I don't think that it matters all too much. However, I do think that it means something different to every single person. So, like, somebody with a high body count, maybe they went through something and they felt that they wanted to, like, maybe they saw it as disrespecting themselves, and maybe someone had a high body count and they were like, I like sex, and they were being perfectly safe and respectful about it. So I don't think that high or low body counts really tell who you are as a person, and I don't think that you should be evaluated based on your body count.
So where does your take diverge from that? Do you think there is some inherent information conveyed about someone, especially a girl, having a high body count?
I don't think it's just necessarily girls specifically. I feel like a lot of people in general would do good to just like have higher standards in general and not sleep around with people. But where I find I diverge with all that kind of stuff is I just genuinely think that there is a line that you cross where it kind of does start to say something about yourself. And it obviously doesn't give the whole picture because people are nuanced. You know, one thing you do won't entirely just represent who you are. But I do believe, and this line's probably different for most people, but I feel like there is a line when you just start to disrespect yourself inherently, the more people you sleep with.
I mean, I guess the core disagreement might be, are you disrespecting yourself if you have sex with a lot of people?
I think that a lot of people, like, most times in their head, like, when they're doing the act, they think it's just, like, for fun, like, they want to do it, and, like, we live in a society right now that it's, like, almost encouraged to, like, be sexually free and stuff like that, but I do think that for a lot of people, at the end of the day, it does take a toll on, like, their self, like, how they see themselves, and, like, it takes a toll on your soul, because, like, sex isn't usually an intimate act. Oh, I also want to talk about, like, if there's different kinds of sex.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's an intimate act, and if you're just doing it so freely, I can see how some people might think that you're just, like, I don't know, easy or something, or you don't value yourself. But I also do think that a lot of people do value themselves, and maybe they're just not seeing the full picture, because a lot of people we're very young right now. You know, we live in a sex positive society. So, yeah, that's my take.
I agree with that to an extent. Like, I think that there's some people who maybe they just enjoy sex. And if they're being safe about it, if they're sleeping with partners who also don't want a relationship, like if they know what they want and they're not like degrading themselves, obviously, like, you know, in a way that they don't enjoy, then I think that it's okay to have sex with multiple people or even many people. It depends on like the circumstances and like what is going through that person's head. If
Yeah, I
somebody
agree.
just got out of a relationship and is upset about it, looking for a new relationship, sleeping with a bunch of people isn't going to do you any good. But if you know, I don't want a relationship, I just want sex, and you're safe about it and your partners are aware of your mindset, then I think that it doesn't really matter all too much.
Yeah, I agree. But I know, like, personally, like, that was my mindset. And now, like, I totally regret that decision. But, like, at the time, like, I thought that I was just doing it because I wanted to do it. But I think there was a sense of, like, wanting that intimacy. And, like, you can't get that from casual sex. Like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And so I tried to. But maybe there's definitely some people out there who that is just what they want.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to tell if that's actually what you truly want or if that's what you think you want, but
Yeah,
you're actually
exactly.
looking for something else.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes time to figure that out too. And
Yeah.
like completely kudos to you for figuring that out. And I'm the exact same way. Like
Yeah. And I think
intimacy is
it's
the key there.
disrespectful of someone to judge an individual on something that they may have done in their past because they were trying to figure themselves out. Because at the end of the day, that's what life is about. It's about growing and figuring out what you want.
I agree with that completely.
I actually 100% agree with that. I'm not really in the business of judging people based on their actions. Honestly, it's not my business to be doing that. So, honestly, I think a lot of people have done a lot of things in their past. Your past doesn't define who you are. It's who you are today and the conscious decisions that you make.
Is it a
define who
factor
you are.
for you though, when you're looking for someone to date? If you think about how high their body count is.
That's not like a factor that I like right away put at the forefront or anything. It's not like, you know, like I would rather be with like the best person on the planet than just be like, oh, this person's pretty cool, but they have like a higher body count. I'm not like, I wouldn't just like cut them out because of that. I find that kind of stupid, but like I'd be lying if I said it's not a factor that kind of weighs in to an extent. I'm not sure where I draw the line personally, but it's definitely there somewhere along the way.
Why do you think that you care about it? Like, do you think it has something to do with maybe like your ego or being insecure or like that woman being around, so like she's less, I don't want to say less value, but like she's easy, so it doesn't mean as much when you have her?
So for me, I think it's more of a self-discipline, self-control type thing, along those lines, if that makes any sense.
So like if someone's having a lot of sex, you think that they don't have like self-control? Or not like necessarily, but
not
like
an
kind
entire
of like,
lack of self-control, but I feel like, yeah, the more people you sleep with, you're not really exercising self-control. And personally, that's a really big thing that I look for in people. I just really respect the idea of self-control and discipline.
I personally kind of disagree with the self-control bit, but I do understand where you're coming from with it being a factor into who you want to date. Like, I personally have pretty severe anxiety. If I was going to choose a partner who had a high body count, I would probably be thinking, oh, like, are they comparing me to somebody that they've had in the past kind of thing? So, like, a lower body count to me kind of makes me feel more confident, but I also wouldn't judge somebody for having a high one. Like, I understand it's all about preference, and I respect that, but, like, I don't know. You can't really use high body count as a way to, like, determine who somebody is.
I feel like there's not as much disagreement on this topic as I was anticipating. Is that
Yeah.
really, like, your perspective on this?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Sums it up.
Yeah. So does anyone have concerns about, like, the hookup culture going on?
Little bit.
I do.
Yeah.
Little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So what are your guys' like perspectives and like thoughts on hookup culture in general?
I think it's probably not the most positive thing. I mean, like, like, to an extent, like, it's fun here and there, but if you... Just no. Just nah. Honestly, fuck all that shit.
Why?
Just in general, like, I'm tired of it. I've had my fun. I'm just done. Seen too much. I said that last time on the pod. We were, like, talking about, like, partying and stuff and all that. Just, like, no. I've had enough. I think I'm done with that.
I think there's like good and bad in it. I think that because it's so normalized, like especially it can impact young women as they're like growing up and trying to get their values in order. Like I think that can be very influential. But I also do think it's good that like we're being more sex positive and stuff like that. But like I feel like you can be more sex positive by just like, or like, what's the word? Sex empowered? I don't know. By just like, I don't know. Actually, I'm not gonna say that.
I think sex positivity is great.
Yeah.
I think that hookup culture is very different from that though, because it almost puts like an expectation on people.
Yeah.
Like it puts the expectation on girls to, well, most of the time the expectation is that girls will have less sex than guys, but it also puts that expectation on guys from a young age that like if they're going into college and they're a virgin, they're a loser, which absolutely is not true.
Yeah.
And it puts that expectation on girls as well, that it's like fun and all of this, and it's just not right for some people. Like it can be great, sex positivity, awesome, be confident in yourself, do what you want to do, but hookup culture puts out that expectation of sex whenever that's not necessarily right.
Yeah, because I mean, at its core, sex positivity is mostly just like, being confident in your own skin and understanding yourself.
Yeah.
So, like, hookup culture, like, it can play a role in it, but it doesn't really need to.
Do you guys see hookup culture as something that just is, or like exists because of like forces beyond our control? Or is it something that is the case because like we're all actively choosing to participate in it?
Honestly,
I think
I think it's both. Like, I think that it's there because of, like, I don't think we can really get rid of it. You know what I mean? Because it's been around for so long, and I don't really know how it started. Obviously, I wasn't there for that, but, like, even in media, like, you can watch any movie all the way back to, I don't even know when, and you'll see, like, people going out, going to parties, hooking up, one-night stands, all of this in almost every movie. Like, How I Met Your Mother. I love that show. And Barney is sleeping with people, multiple people an episode. And it's just kind of, like, normalizing it. He's cool because of it. And it's like...
He's not cool.
He's not a cool dude,
issues.
though. Yeah, he's got some problems. But, like, it makes it out to be cool. Like, the Golden Girls. That's, like, a bunch of old women. And they're always talking about how they, like, hooked up with people whenever they were younger. And it's like, you see it in all age groups, in all medias. So I don't think it's going to go away. And I don't think it's something we have much control over.
Well, couldn't we stop hooking up with people? And then that would kind of be the end of it?
We could, but realistically, that would have to be a mass movement for it to do anything. And it's like, we're working on saving our planet right now. That's not going too hot. Not many people are actually participating in it, and there's tons that are, but it's still not doing enough. So every single person would have to do it, or else, like, if just one person was like, I'm just going to continue with this, then everybody would look at them and be like, okay, well, why are they doing that? And it would start another cycle, because it had to have started with some small group of people and then expanded. So if we went back down to a small group, it'd just expand again eventually.
So you just think it's kind of inevitable that we'll gravitate back toward that?
Probably.
I guess I have more hope. Like, if we do think it's a bad thing that hookup culture is going on, I feel like we could make social changes to stop that. And this isn't from like a shaming people perspective. It's more like, I think that you will have more fulfilling relationships if you are, with like a long-term partner.
Yeah.
And just encouraging that and like making that the norm again. I think that's something that's totally within our reach.
I think we could definitely change hookup culture. I think that we could definitely move it away from, like, mass amounts of sex, mass amounts of, like, expectations on people, but I don't think that we could, like, get rid of it altogether, is what I mean by that.
I'd agree with that.
I think so too. Yeah.
You think that we can't get rid of it, or
Wait.
who do you agree with?
I agree with her.
High five. This is the first time we've agreed in a very long time.
Do you want to jump in here? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying like,
I mean, physically.
probably be better.
All right, Jeff, so what are your thoughts so far?
Well, I guess I would ask Ethan firstly if there is a distinction for you between guys' body counts and girls.
That's a tight question. I think there is a little bit of a difference, but it's not like that big of a difference in the sense that everyone would do better to practice self-control. Everyone would do better in general just to like not participate in hookup culture, in my opinion. But when it comes to difference between guys and girls' body counts, I'd say that it is a double standard and it's not really right, but there is definitely a culture that promotes a higher body count in guys versus in girls. And that's definitely something that's a factor right now.
But, like, you said that you think there is a difference, so what do you think the difference is?
I think the difference is mainly in how people view it. Obviously, like, guys are kind of, like, portrayed as, like, a stud the more they sleep with, and girls, like, it's the exact opposite. They're kind of shamed, so I think that at least the way, like, people view it, yeah, there is a difference. I don't really think, personally, that there should be a massive difference, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous if people think it's a difference because it's not a difference. And I think that the main people who do think it's a difference is men, which is funny because they're the ones who are actively having sex with the women. And that's ridiculous to me. But
As soon as Rowan asked that question, I was ready for
Yeah,
things
yeah,
to get
I was
heated. Like, people watching this will probably see my facial expressions as soon as that question came up. I was just like, uh-oh.
yeah.
But I respect you for that answer. I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is an actual difference, but the way that people view it makes it seem like there is. Either way, it's an intimate act. Either way, it's two people. Usually, like if it is a man and a woman, then it's pretty much,
Like, I think it's just important to clarify, like, Ethan's stance on these things, because I feel like we've kind of set him up to be, like, someone who's, like, an anti-Tate fanboy or something.
Yeah.
Which is just not true, I haven't really heard any, outlandish things yet coming from him, and...
We need someone who is.
I was expecting to hear
That's the
some
thing.
messed up shit.
Yeah, that's why I think it, like, kind of ties into, like, there's really small minorities of people on the internet, like, these, like, insane anti-Tate incels, and then, like, the super far left, like, pro-cancel, like, everyone kind of thing, that makes it seem like it's a much more prominent issue than it is.
Well, why do you think people perceive you as controversial on this?
I say a lot of dumb shit sometimes, so I feel like that just kind of, like, emanates no matter where I go. So I feel like people expected me to just be like, I'm gonna come in here and say the most out-of-pocket shit of all fucking time.
I feel like you're also being super respectful right now in how you speak.
Yeah, we're having a discussion. Why wouldn't I
Exactly.
be?
You know,
I mean,
we're
you have
having
to
a
take the
discussion
land.
That's the
going
whole
on.
point of it.
Usually tossing out a lot more slang, swear words. This time you're actually put together.
Which obviously, of course,
Like,
because
that's
it's
the whole
going
point of
on.
the podcast.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, but like I know when we actually get in fights about this, is not how our conversations go. But
Well, then would you defend that, like, these are your authentic thoughts, and, like, sometimes you just, like, are trying to, like, get a little bit of a reaction?
Oh yeah, 100%.
This is the weirdest podcast of all time.
yeah, it is
Um,
weird.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're all pretty much in agreement on this issue.
Do you guys think that there can be Do you guys think that there can be like a difference between sex? Like, do you guys think that there can be like two types of sex?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that there's multiple different types of sex,
Mhm.
and it also completely depends on the relationship you're in. Like, we've been talking, most of us here are either heterosexual or in a heterosexual relationship,
Mhm.
but, like, if two girls are dating, if two guys are dating, girl and a guy, non-binary people,
Yeah, that's not
all
what
different kinds of sex.
Like, I mean, like casual, like meaningless sex, or like intimate, loving, with someone you love.
Yeah,
Or
depends
is
on
it
the
just, like,
mindset when you go
sex?
into it? No, it depends on the mindset when you go into it. Like, there's definitely different kinds of sex.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you don't know the person too well and you're just like, I just want sex, it's probably not going to be super intimate. You're probably not in love with that person.
Mhm.
So, I wouldn't call it meaningless because, like, I think all sex has some sort of meaning to whoever's, like, partaking.
Mhm.
But there's definitely different kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone views sex as meaningless. And I came to this realization a few days ago when we were talking about this, where it's like, what is cheating in a relationship? It's when you have sex with someone else, right? Or do something physical with someone else. Generally, that's considered cheating. And it doesn't matter if that's a meaningless act, you know, it's like, oh, you can't just be like, oh, it's just casual. It's like, there's something visceral about your partner having sex with someone else that it has some value in it, that act.
Well, yeah, it kind of feels like it's betrayal. Like that's why cheating hurts so much, you know? It's like you're in this relationship with this person that for the most part you've been going through for at least like a few months. So like the longer you're with, the cheating would become more intense if it were to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because you're sharing all these things and then it feels like you kind of like throw it away just to have like a hookup.
But we probably
meaningless kind of sex, even though we do,
in relationships, like it's not like you tell your partner every detail of your life, right? Like in every relationship, like there's some stuff you don't talk about, you know, and like, but the sex is like that's the thing that if you don't talk about that, if you hide that, then that is important.
Well, that's also like an interesting question. Is like why have we classified like a physical act as cheating instead of like I'm sure a lot of people would say that. Cheating isn't like hanging out one-on-one with someone who isn't your partner, you know, like they wouldn't say that's cheating. So it's like we kind of have to get into like, it's just the societal norm that we think that having sex with someone else that isn't your partner is cheating, you know, like why isn't having like a super emotional connection with someone that isn't your partner considered cheating, you know what I mean?
I think that if you had like a girl that you like told more things to about, like I'd break up with you because that would just be really uncomfortable, and that maybe it's not cheating, but to me, like, cheating doesn't just have to be, like, sex. Like, if he's closer emotionally with someone else rather than me, then I'm out.
Yeah,
If
I
I
agree.
if I had sex with like one person, like on like a drunken night in the Dome, would you also break up with me?
Yeah, of course.
So isn't that interesting that like one casual sexual encounter is equal to having like an intimate emotional relationship with another person?
I don't think that's crazy because it's showing how little you care about your relationship if you're willing to waste it on a casual drunken sex encounter.
So let me correct that. I don't think it's crazy. I just think it proves that all sexual encounters have a lot of value.
No, I would argue that though.
How would you
Because I
argue?
think that like cheating is just like betrayal at the end of the day, like Rowan said. So whether that's emotionally or physically, it's the act of betrayal that I think is cheating.
Yeah. Cheating would be crossing a boundary that you guys have set. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? So, like, if I were to say to Josh, like, there's one specific girl, she doesn't want to have sex with him, nothing like that, but she just gives me a weird vibe, and she's, like, on him or something, and they hang out one-on-one, I'd just be like,
Yep, bye.
yeah, I'm
I have
over
a
this.
question.
What's up?
So you were talking about if he had a girl that he was more emotionally open with, you'd break up with him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if it's his mom?
Well, if
I
guess-
you talk to my mom.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
not
your
more
mom.
open
But you're
with my
not,
mom.
yeah,
Well, I
and
would
like,
really argue that you are anyway, like more open with your girlfriend than your mom.
yeah, so
But
like,
even if I was,
I feel
you
like
probably would
if a
respect
guy
that.
was like telling everything to their mom, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah,
But, like-
You'd be like, oh, that's a little
Yeah.
I
weird.
wouldn't
You'd
like,
be
yeah, I
that's a-
wouldn't consider it
that's something
cheating,
we
but it
need
would
to
just
get
give me
past.
weird
Yeah.
vibes.
Imagine if it was like Maya's thing where it's like she's like, I don't want you talking to your mom. She's always on you.
But back to like the hookup culture thing. I don't even think that hookup culture is like more prominent now. I mean, it definitely is, but I don't think it's to the extent that we think. I don't think like 30 years ago people were just all having relationships. You know, it's like four out of the 6 people in this room right now are in a relationship. You know, that's the majority. And I think I find a lot of people in relationships. It just feels like hookup culture is like our generation's thing. because of like social media again, because everything just gets like promoted. There's all these online dating apps and all this stuff. I don't think people really want to do it. Like they want these fulfilling relationships, but just because it's available, it feels like it's more prominent. People want it more.
Well, I think firsthand, everyone knows it's more available than ever before. Like with dating apps,
Except for women. I don't think it's more available for women now. I think men have been offering sex to women like unsolicited for like their entire lives. Like women start getting catcalled like at like 12. You know, like you could argue that like women practice self-control often because they could go have sex with any guy for the most part. But you know, like they are being like selective in their choices. Like I want to like date this guy. Like I could go easily have sex with like a random guy on the street because they're being offered that since they were little. You know, so I think there is a difference between sex is probably easier for men to get nowadays because of like these online dating apps, but I think the real world has allowed for women to be able to have sex whenever they want.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The whole catcalling thing, like I've experienced that since I was, God, I think the first time it happened to me, I was literally 11 years old. And like it's just so like it's uncomfortable whenever it's being pushed at you. And so I think that's part of what makes women want to be more selective is because it's like always there. And I think that's why men aren't as selective. No offense. I don't mean that in a mean way. But like whenever something's not as available, it's like whenever you do have the option to get it, it's kind of more like a woohoo moment, you know?
That's a good point. It's like maybe like if a guy has sex with like 20 girls out of like 50 that are interested in him, that's 40%, right? But like if a woman has sex with 30 guys out of like 1,000 who are interested in her, that's 3%, which is like way more selective, but the number might still be higher because there's so much interest.
Yeah, and it's also the whole thing, like everyone's heard the argument against why body counts shouldn't matter for women. It's like, you know, if like a girl's had sex with 300 guys, it's the same thing physically as having sex 300 times with one guy. You know, everyone knows that argument. So it's kind of now, for all these guys that are probably insecure about that, like you have to dive into why does having the, like what is being like assumed of this girl because she's had sex, let's say with like 300 for like an extreme. And all these guys have to like kind of dive into what are they assuming about these girls? What are they kind of putting onto them without even knowing what they're all about, you know?
There might not be a physical difference, but I think there's definitely a psychological difference. Yeah. Guy or girl, if you have sex with 300 people, you know? Like, I wouldn't say that that person should be shamed or anything, but it's like, there's probably some, like, psychological stuff going on that you're trying to solve through this act that's probably not going to work at solving it, you know? And that's men or women, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like, I mean, this is like already generally known. That's why I do think it's like it would be better to. It's kind of like there's like this boogeyman sitting over on that couch. Not you. I'm saying like not Josh either. But it's like we hear about like all these like super extreme guys like Andrew Tate, and like Sneeko and Fresh and Fit and all these really red pill guys that are kind of like fueling the ideas that these young insecure men feel. You know, and I think we're trying to put it on to Ethan because he's like the only one that's said anything, and like it's just important to acknowledge, like if we like agree with this demographic of people could probably be pushed outward. I don't actually think as many people. I think more people agree, like have like these takes than people have like these insane takes, and that just goes back to the like a small minority of people are doing a lot of damage to like what a lot of people think. You know,
you also hear the extremes like on social media. Like you're not going to hear about the people with the neutral opinions as often because it's not as controversial, doesn't get as many reactions. So like if one person like Andrew Tate says something completely out of pocket, there's going to be way more people that are like, what the hell is wrong with you? So it's going to get pushed so that tons and tons of people see it. So it makes it seem like that's a way more common opinion than it actually is just because it's so extreme. So, like, I don't think that that's actually an opinion that's super common. I think that, once again, it's probably similar to ours. Most people are probably neutral about it. But it's, like, the concern that somebody that you're meeting has that extreme opinion. So it's, like, you kind of have that assumption just because of media. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people like making the arguments for like high body count, low body count are basing it off of what they think people think instead of actually like what people really think about it.
It's important to note though, like it's not just the media
Mhm.
of like Andrew Tate that makes people think that like some very like sexist opinion on this is popular. It's the fact that like Andrew Tate is incredibly popular.
Mhm.
Like if 20 million people are watching Andrew Tate, it's like there have to be people who either openly or like secretly feel the way that he feels, right? And a lot of them must be in our generation. But I mean, I feel a lot of hope from this podcast, just like the fact that it's like 3 guys and 2 girls, and like we all kind of
Agree
on this, yeah.
And the whole phenomenon of why Andrew Tate is so popular is because this is just an indirect result of, you know, like the progressive movement and kind of the hating on like white men and hating on heterosexual men. And not that I think that there was anything wrong with that. I think that you could have gone 20 years back and maybe like fixed how you approached trying to like push for equality and all these things. But now you have this group of men who feel disenfranchised, which is why people like Andrew Tate have the opportunity to have like a platform, because like no one like, and this is they weren't heard, and even though they are insane, a lot of them, like a lot of these white cis men, this like group of people felt like they weren't heard for the last 20 years because we were trying to do so much catch up with other people who were disenfranchised for all of history. So now like these people are able to have these platforms, and you're able to have like such a strong following because they're like, oh, this guy's listening to me. He's saying like that these women are the problem. I'm not the problem. I want to keep following this guy, you know?
Mm.
I'll keep it a buck. I genuinely feel like no matter how disenfranchised you are, if you take like Andrew Tate or Sneeko as anything other than entertainment, you're fucking stupid. Grow some critical thinking skills, jeez. And it's like it's blatantly obvious for like a lot of people watching that these guys are like playing a character, or at least like kind of seems like that for the most part. But like, damn.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are adding on a little bit of acting, but a lot of them I believe like those are 100% their thoughts.
Mm.
And the thing that is like you can see this in real life, and that's like the important thing to distinguish is like, is someone taking this as entertainment, or are they taking it as like gospel almost, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like people worship these guys, and the thing that really annoys me is how no one recognizes how everyone is so human. Like everyone gets triggered at certain things. Everyone follows people often blindly, you know? It depends on what side you're on, you know? Like a bunch of people got triggered at Dylan Mulvaney being like on a few Bud Light cans, and now like and that triggered the fuck out of a bunch of right-wing people, you know? And like people on the left could get triggered if someone says you know, like men are inherently like smarter or something. You know, there's like plenty of like triggering things. It just depends what triggers you, you know?
Yeah. The one thing I hate about Andrew Tate is he brings on, like, these like, all of the girls are from, like, LA. Like, you know, and, like, that's not the average girl.
Yeah,
And he's,
like
like,
Miami,
comparing
LA
every
girls.
woman to, like,
Yeah.
like, women in LA and, like, Miami and stuff. And that's just insane. Like, that's not that...
Arguably, the women from Miami and LA have less brain cells to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know
But
about
also,
that.
People
like,
just generally
Miles
from
said-
Miami.
Miles said that like Andrew Tate is super popular, right? So you gotta assume a lot of the people
That was
watching
Miles' hot take.
are like following him. But like I follow Andrew Tate because it's hilarious.
Yeah,
I
it's
watch
just
it.
absurdity.
You know what
so
I mean?
It's funny to watch.
I mean, I
So-
like watching some of his like some of the reels that people post about him because like it's entertaining.
Yeah.
You know.
Is he even still a thing though? Like, why do we keep bringing him
I
up?
don't
he's
know.
Still I mean,
Isn't he like in
just
jail?
to,
Like,
He just got
As the Andrew- as the-
weeks ago.
yeah. Well, yeah. He got moved to house arrest.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the
that's
investigation's still ongoing. They've just decided he's no longer a flight risk, so they're okay with him being under house arrest.
interesting.
Is a flight risk somebody who's like
Someone who
gonna
they think is
faint
going
a
to leave
lot?
the country,
Oh,
and they decided he's not, so he's allowed to be under house arrest.
that makes a lot more
So
sense.
maybe what I can take from your take is that I need to stop extrapolating so much from what media is popular. Like on the unreleased podcast that we tried to film yesterday,
Okay.
when we were talking about Jeffrey Dahmer and why that show was popular. That doesn't mean that everyone is like secretly into serial killing.
No.
You know, and like because Andrew Tate's popular, I guess that doesn't mean that everyone has misogynistic takes about dating.
I don't even think that the general population is like taking away from the Jeffrey Dahmer case. Like, oh, I feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Like, definitely
I
not.
really, really
It's
hope
just
not.
interesting
Yeah.
to talk about these insane minorities.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Could you guys both say like a few things that you think he says that is good?
Is good.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not like an Andrew Tate stan. Like, I don't know like all of his ideologies. I just know like that he degrades women, and I've seen some clips.
Yeah.
I'm not like I
Sure.
don't watch
Yeah,
Andrew
exactly.
Tate.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
really either. I follow him, and whenever I see something come up that's got a lot of comments that are like, whoa, what the fuck, I watch it because I'm like, this
Yeah.
is going to be good.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I don't really
Sure.
pay enough attention to have a
'Cause-
good or bad opinion.
I'm sure that he does say like he's probably said at least one thing that maybe makes sense.
Well, yeah. The point of the question was that it's important to be able to grab good advice and like good pieces of information from anyone. Like I've said this a few times, whether or not it's on the podcast, because fuck that shit up. Like good advice can come from anyone, So it's like there's plenty of stuff that like these alt-right guys push for, like self-improvement. Like although there's like certain means to self-improvement that I think they go about it incorrectly, like with all like the materialism and like just going to the gym isn't going to fix you or anything. But there's like you can look at some things like Andrew Tate people that say have more accountability, work on yourself, try to overall just be a better person. Obviously with Andrew Tate there's a lot of sexist and misogynistic backgrounds to everything he says, but it's important just to pull out the good things of like what anyone says and leave the bad stuff behind. It's all about having like your most well-rounded opinion you can.
What do you like about Andrew Tate?
What is there not to like? Holy shit, my guy is a spiritual genius. I've never seen anyone as spiritually enlightened as Andrew Tate. I love that guy. And you know what? Everyone's out here, they're like, Andrew Tate's a misogynist. Andrew Tate's disrespecting women. Good, we need to disrespect women more and put them in their place. That's enough said.
He's trying to make a clip. He's looking into the camera.
Yeah,
It'll work.
1,000%.
I want to
Yeah.
ask
We'll see
you
if it
a
goes out.
question.
All right, yeah.
Why do you think you personally struggled to come to terms with the history of your sexual partners, your ex partner, and me?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying everything like, oh, we shouldn't judge anyone, but you did have trouble with that more so the other person than me. But actually, no, that's a lie.
That's a fair question. That's a fair question. And just to be clear, like both in this relationship and in my last relationship, I had an issue with the sexual history, the high body count of my partner, and I do think my concern is always that having a high body count can be one of two things. Either you're like a very sexually progressive person who wants to like experience other people and like you're just very you don't see it as like a very serious thing. It's just like that's your way of connecting, or it can be trying to validate yourself. And I think in the cases of some of my past relationships, that was the reason for a high body count. The reason I don't struggle with that anymore is because I think that the mental factors that go into that can change. I think people can change. And just because one day you're looking for like validation through casual sex doesn't mean that that's going to be the case in 2 years, I have a lot of respect for people's ability to grow and change.
Yeah, I would argue though that even if it was the first option, that they were doing it because they were sexually free, you would have a problem with it saying that they're having not meaningless sex, but they're taking something so like intimate and making it more casual.
Yeah, I think that in the first case I would be concerned about it too, because I think that would mean that our sex wasn't special.
Yeah.
And they're likely to look for sex from other places.
Mm-hmm.
I want to date someone, and I'm lucky to be doing this right now, who views our sexual relationship as intimate and special, and I want my partner to have that. But you can get there from a history of having a lot of sexual partners, or you can get there from a history of not. Well, all that matters to me is that you're there, and I believe that you are.
I don't know if you explicitly answer this, but do you have anything wrong with people seeking validation through sex?
Yes.
And what would your issue with that be versus like someone seeking validation through another thing?
It's not just sex. I think that there's other ways of seeking validation that are bad.
People do it every single day.
Yeah, I think that you should seek validation based on your accomplishments and your character and try to build yourself up. And it shouldn't be done through more just like trivial, like pissing contest ways of validation, like having a lot of money or having a lot of sexual partners. I think that's vacant, and it creates an image of yourself as if you've accomplished something great that is actually based on nothing.
So what would you deem like a legitimate crusade and seeking a validation? Like, what would you be okay with?
Tons of things. Like say that you like work really hard in school and get a degree, and you're like, I've accomplished something, or you accomplish a lot in your job professionally. You build better relationships with people. You fix problems interpersonally and in your social life. Like, that's all stuff that it's legitimate to get validation from. But when you're like trying to rack up numbers, basically for the point of telling other people that you have a high number.
I don't think that's what anyone is like seeking validation. Though I don't think
Sure,
that's
but
the point of what they're doing.
for
They're
the
not doing it to get a high number.
So what do you
so they
mean-
can flex.
So why do you think that people who have sex with a lot of people for validation, what is the nature of that validation?
Knowing that a bunch of people are attracted to them.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
You know
so
what I
a
mean?
bunch of people are attracted to you.
But I don't think that like one would go around being like, oh yeah, I got this body count number, so like that means I'm like super hot, or like like I don't really think that intertwines.
That is like a difference between guys and girls though, because like there are some guys that would go around doing that.
Yeah, but that I don't.
Yeah, I'll keep
I
it a
don't know,
buck.
like,
That's what I
any-
did in high school.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
any.
It's more about like the self-validation, like
Yeah,
how you
it's like
feel.
it's more.
You
It's
know
like
what I mean?
yourself. You're not doing
Yeah.
it to flex.
So
Yeah,
so I guess
it's not
here's
like to
another
share a
argument.
number.
Yeah.
If you're a guy, so we all agree that if you're a guy and you like say I have a high body count, that's really like vacant and kind of stupid, right?
Yeah.
If you're a
Just the
girl,
act of saying it, or you mean like
if that's the
pursuit
point
that?
of the
Yeah,
sex,
sure.
if you're a girl who has sex for validation because it's like, oh, I'm attractive, like I can get a lot of guys to have sex with me, I think it's bad to get one of your primary kinds of validation from just like physical characteristics you can't control.
Oh yeah, I
It's
don't
like, oh, I'm
disagree
hot,
with that.
great,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
great.
me neither.
Would
That
you-
doesn't make you special,
way
or it
you're
doesn't mean you've
saying it.
accomplished anything.
Would you be okay
Yeah.
if it was like secondary or tertiary types of validation?
What do you mean?
I'm
You know, like
supposed
if
to know
like
what
you're
those words mean,
if
but
you're
I
finding
don't.
like validation in your career pursuits, or if you're finding validation in relationships you're developing with other people, and then thirdly, you seek validation through having a lot of sex.
I just don't like it. I don't think that's something you should have sex for, because again, I think sex is intimate and meaningful, and it's kind of degrading to sex if the reason you do it is to like show, because ultimately like you're either showing to others or you're showing to yourself that you've accomplished something. I don't think sex is a place where we accomplish stuff.
Could you
I think it's a place where we connect with our partners.
define? Well, I mean, I assume you would probably agree that having sex with like a long-term partner means more than having sex with someone who you just met that night, right? You would agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
So, why? Other than the idea of like it would be better, but like at its core, like what makes that more meaningful than sex with someone that you just met?
So I can only speak from my own personal opinion on this, but in my experience, the kind of sex that you have when you are in an intimate long-term relationship with someone has a lot to do with your connection with that person, and it kind of enhances that connection.
Do you think that's just an argument for making the sex will be better, not so much that the meaning is different? You know, like what's like the different? Is there like what's the scale to like what matters more?
I think all sex is important. I'm willing to die on that hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just if you're having meaningless sex, if you define it as so, you just look at that a little bit a lot of it differently than if you're having sex with like a long-term partner.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, man, because like I don't want to go full like Christian like fundamentalist on this and just be like,
Well, that's like what
you
I'm
can
trying to
only
get
have
at-
sex if you're married. That doesn't feel emotionally right to me.
That's why, I'm trying to get into like, do you think there's like a universal truth that sex means more when you're with a long-term partner, or do you think that's just like what society has dictated? You know,
I think that in the society that we're all raised in, we view sex as important, even if we don't consciously realize that. I think it could be the case in 100 years or something, that like sex is not an act that we value. Purely reproductive or for fun or whatever, you know, but like right now, like I think people connect sex a lot with love. Like we were talking about media earlier and like movies and TV shows. Yeah, there's hookups and stuff in TV, but like the act of having sex with someone has a lot to do with love in a lot of the media we watch and starting relationships and being like that is like the building block for relationships in a lot of cases, you know. I think sex is important.
Love. What's the building block to a relationship? Sex?
Intimacy, like.
Okay, that makes more sense. I thought
Yeah.
you were saying like you should have sex and that will give you a relationship.
No, like you can you can be in a relationship where you don't have sex right away, or you can have sex and not be in a relationship.
Yep.
But generally, when you have sex with someone, like the dynamic of your relationship has changed.
Yeah.
when do you think a relationship becomes a relationship? It's kind of
That's
a
a
hard
great question.
There's
Somebody else
actually,
want to think about that? So it's not-
I don't remember exactly what like the whole breakdown was, but I was taking a class earlier. They had this triangle, and it had like it outlined 3 separate types of relationships, and the way that it's measured. On one part of the triangle, it's passion, and it goes from side to side. Another part's intimacy. I forget what the third part is, but I think if I remember correctly, it was passion and intimacy that make up your standard relationship.
So here's what makes your question tough, right? Like I could ask, do you mean like a relationship, like we have a relationship, or we have a relationship, or any two people who know each other have a relationship, or do you mean a romantic relationship? But the thing,
romantic.
but I feel like that line is
But
blurred
the other
so
one,
much.
like a platonic relationship also is like, when does that become? When do you become a friend instead of like an acquaintance? You know, and I feel like the thing is, we all know what we are to each other, but like, when did that happen? And I don't know if anyone has an answer to that. That's kind of, it just eventually happened.
So I've pulled up the triangle that I was talking about. So I was right. It says here, I don't remember who made this triangle, but I think I saw it in Human Sexuality. It's basically
Sexuality, shout out.
Yeah, big shout out. Basically, a romantic love is between intimacy and passion. Fortuitous love is between passion and commitment. And intimacy and companionate love is between intimacy and commitment. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Wait, can I
those
see
lines.
it? I want to talk
There's no
about how on the
self-control.
last podcast, you said that sex is far less addictive than like a drug.
You know, that might not be entirely
Yeah,
accurate,
I
but at
would
least I
argue
feel
that.
I feel like it depends on which drug we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Like
There's
obviously,
like a lot of different.
obviously, like having a lot of casual sex isn't the same as being
Yeah.
addicted to heroin. Like that's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying, but I
like,
think
sex
that
releases different chemicals in your brain.
exactly
right?
it
So you
does.
could look at a drug that
That's
releases
all probably
similar
what it ties
ones.
back to.
Yeah, and like I think that people can use it almost as an escape, just like they do with like drinking
Yeah,
or
no,
drugs or vaping.
I'll squash this right now to like clarify what I meant to say last time. I'm not saying that sex, you can't get addicted to sex or use it as like a drug in its own form. What I meant to say, and I should have made this a lot more clear last time, is that I was like comparing it to like hard drugs like meth and heroin and shit like
Yeah,
that.
and I don't think
Yeah.
it's comparable. I think it's a separate thing, but it has
Yeah.
the same like I don't know the right word to use, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
Yeah.
heroin and meth are obviously
It's a-
leagues more addicting than sex.
yeah, and it's just a
Yeah.
completely different like it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Like being addicted to a
I
drug.
think people are like predisposed to be addicted to certain things, or do you think just like through their life arcs they've like had like certain things happen to them that make them be more likely to be addicted to like nicotine or sex or
It's a combination.
gambling?
Yeah, I would say
It's a combination. Some people are like genetically they're more likely to just become addicted to something. along the lines. In some families, like specifically, like you'll find a gambling addiction. Part of that's culture, part of that's genetic.
And yeah, then you would actually probably have like the kids could become gambling addicts. So it's probably environmental a lot of the time.
Do you guys think that weed and sex might be similar in one way? Where it's like, there's like, here are 3 reasons you could smoke weed, right? You could smoke it to be like cool, and you're like 15, you're like, oh, look at all the weed I'm smoking.
Yeah.
How cool am I? You could smoke
for
weed.
validation.
Yeah, exactly. You could smoke to have fun, right? You could be like, you could want to get like baked and watch Ted and like chill with your friends and that. Or you could smoke weed and be like, I'm gonna like write something or like make this like art project and like try to do something like meaningful, you know?
Yeah, those are probably like the 3 main categories. Oh, do you think there's something interesting how there's kind of like 2 types of people that think that smoking weed will make them more productive, and then there's people that think that constant weed smokers are going to be more lazy. You know, because a lot of people say like, I'm able to get this shit done because I got high.
Dude, I want to say something about this. I used to smoke a shit ton of weed. Like, I used to hit like 30 bongers a day. I'm not kidding. Like, a lot. And I did that
You've
for
just
like...
been validated.
Yeah. Yeah, just so everyone knows, I was a cool kid. But, yeah, I did that for like 4 years straight. And like, I always said, like, my parents would always get on me because I was pretty young. And I'd be like, it's not affecting me, guys. Like, you don't understand. Like, I'm being just as productive. I'm doing just as good in school. And then, like, because that's honestly what I thought. Like, I wasn't doing horrible. I was meeting the necessities, you know? Like, I was meeting the very bare minimum. But then, like, I stopped smoking weed, and holy shit. Like, it's insane how much I changed. Like, I did so much better in school, and, like, I started finding things that I liked again because, like, I was so consumed in, like, smoking weed that it's, like, even when me and my friends would, like, go in nature, I'd just be thinking, like, when am I going to hit my next bong rip?
Yeah. So there's, like, 2 types of people, right? There's a type of person that is going to be inhibited from being productive with weed, and then there's people like Seth Rogen and Joe Rogan who thrive off of their weed addictions, you know?
Yeah,
like,
but do they smoke, like, are they always high?
Yeah, it's like constantly smoking, you know? And also like rappers a lot, you know, they're always smoking. Could you argue that they'd be better artists and, or not better artists, but be more productive artists if they weren't? Yeah, but then maybe that would take away from how good their art is. You know?
I don't know, man. Wiz Khalifa dropped like 5 albums last year. They were all really
exactly,
good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and, like, I think that it definitely can be, like, good for, like, a creative outlet, you know? Like, it gets your mind in a different place, but I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, like, from day-to-day activities, and I think that people who are using it constantly, almost like a crutch, then it's probably doing more damage than good. You just, like, don't know it because you haven't been without it.
Yeah. I would defend people that are constant weed smokers as long as they're still able to get the things that they want done, you know? If
Yeah.
that's stopping you from... If you're like just staying in your house the entire day, you're smoking and like you're ordering food, and you're playing video games, then weed is probably inhibiting you from doing the productive things that you want to be accomplishing,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then there's just some people who are really good at being high and getting shit done, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I still just think that most
it
people
just- it
most
didn't work
people
for
I
you.
feel like are better off without it.
Yeah.
But I think it's awesome to use recreationally, or like even like at night.
It's cool.
You're like, yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, I don't really like it, but like, it obviously does a lot of good for a lot of people, and so I totally respect that, you know. I've tried to write with both weed and alcohol before, and it's like a completely different kind of like completely fucking up my writing. Because like
It negatively affects your writing.
yeah, because like the weed, I'll just write down a bunch of ideas, and then I'll wake up the next morning and be like,
What
this
the
is
fuck
all
is this?
nonsense, you know. And the alcohol, like I'll start writing, and then I'll just be like, I gotta go like dance.
Do you think you could write really well on mushrooms?
We tried to do that picture book that one time. Remember
Dude,
that?
that was so fucked. I don't even know what was going on.
I started making like a graphic novel about this like guy looking for like cactuses in the
Your
desert.
job, it was so bad. Like, you
So if you're into that kind of thing, then, yeah. But,
Yeah, I'm sure people like that are on streams that are trying to do some like kind of artistic endeavor. They think it's a lot better in the moment than it actually is.
I mean,
And I feel like writing's hard because, like, that still takes a lot of, like, I don't know, clarity. Whereas like if you're painting something, like I could totally see like
Yeah, it's more
shrooms or like
abstract.
yeah.
When you make music, are you intoxicated at any point in the process?
It depends. Here and there, like, I try to stay sober for the most part because, you know, like, the boys usually are getting fried out of their minds, so I have to jump in and, like, start doing, like, production stuff. But, when it's, like, when we're all just, like, in terms of, like, writing and we're just trying to, like, get some bars rolling and stuff, it's, like, every once in a while, you know, we'll have a few drinks. And what I notice when we're drinking is, for me specifically, I kind of turn off the training wheels sometimes, and I just start writing the most, like, batshit things that come to my mind. There's, like, no self-censorship, and it only ends up being, like, censored after I've said it into a microphone, and we realize it's like, okay, this is pretty shit, or it's like, I think we're onto something right now. But usually, the guys are usually pretty high. I don't really smoke that much, so I don't really smoke
Any
in the
Wiz
studio.
Khalifas in your midst?
Yeah, we got a couple Wiz Khalifas in our midst.
We had to edit a bunch yesterday or 2 days ago,
Yeah,
and
2 days ago.
we had a few drinks during that.
Yeah, and that was fine. It was like, it didn't inhibit our editing
No.
process.
It was just so tedious that I think we needed something to like. Kinda lighten the mood.
we needed a crutch.
I would love to come back together in the next couple weeks and
Do a religion one.
do a religion,
That'd be sick.
atheism, astrology
keep going.
podcast.
Mm.
Yeah.
But in light of the storage limits that we have,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna end it here. But let's do that soon.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
I'm down.
I would like to propose first the first Void field trip. Let's go to the Westboro Baptist Church and do
I'm
a
so
24-hour challenge.
Yeah.
We
It'd be
should
real
actually
fun.
go to a church before we make
We should do a void vlog at the
I'm
church.
also down.
No, plug your.
I've been
Your music.
there. I've been to the
Oh,
one
plug my
on,
music.
South Street,
Instagram.com
run by
/
Fairmont.
E10_Ross, Easy10 spelled with a Z and a 10 on all platforms. New music coming soon. Yeah.